tell me about yourself. So my name is Jesse Cullen. I'm a fourth-year criminology and justice student at UYT. I've been a community organizer for most of my adult life. I'm actually a mature student. I have a 3-year-old daughter at home. My partner is a student in the mental health and addictions program at Durham College, and she's just doing her placement right now at Pinewood through withdrawal management. And so my whole adult life I've kind of been dedicated my activities towards social justice and organizing to build capacity in low and middle income neighborhoods. So outside of school, I helped launch a nonprofit organization a couple years ago called We Are Oshawa, and basically worked on issues like raising the minimum wage, fighting for accessible, affordable childcare for folks who can't afford it. And I've been active on campus as well through groups like Drop Tuition UYT. I was one of the co-founders of Drop Tuition UYT, and we were able to organize the first ever student walkout in UIT history last year to demand the abolition of tuition fees and debt relief for students. And actually part of that demand was actually came to fruition as of yesterday when the provincial government announced that they were going to make post-secondary education free for any low-income families. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think that's the power in activism and in community organizing. When we realize our collective power, we can really affect change. So that's really a little bit about myself and what motivates me to get involved with campus politics. Number 2, why do you think you are a good candidate for this position, and why do you want this position? Well, I think in order to answer that question, I think we have to ask, I'm running for re-election as president of the Student Association. So I think my record is really important when we talk about that. So I created a bit of a list of the first time the SA has done a bunch of things this year under my presidency. So we created an emergency bursary program to help target financial assistance to low-income students who are finding themselves in need. We created, for the first time ever, a student transit strategy, and we were successful so far in stopping the UPass increase of 25% 3 separate times since October. We also, through action, having students sign a petition, over 1,000 students signed a petition, which ended up creating a campus food committee. And that was actually able to get us the first ever campus food committee. Multi-faith program, the first ever Islamophobia conference for folks running for election on our slate. We negotiated a new health plan, which no longer requires doctor's notes for students seeking mental health services. We have halal food at EP Taylor's for the first time. We got a new website, created EP Taylor's Cafe with 10,000 free coffees for students. And, we actually reduced the SA membership fee for the first time in SA history. So those are just some of the accomplishments that we were able to accomplish this year, and I think that's important when you talk about why you want to run again and why you want to be president. So we'll go to the next section, part 2. Presidential hopefuls, what is your concrete game plan for the presidential term of 2016 and 2017 if you are successful? So the Students Unite team, and I'm not asking for folks just to vote for me, I'm also asking them to vote for our entire team. We have 10 candidates running on the Students Unite banner. And our whole platform this year has been based on 3 planks. It's about equity, community, and action. So we want to make sure that if we're talking about campus life, that people feel safe on campus. And one of the ways we can do that is by creating an SA women's support and safety strategy, by working with stakeholders on campus, like Durham College UIT, and students on campus, to figure out ways to address issues like access to services, access to childcare, making sure we address sexual violence on campus, because 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted during their post-secondary education. We also want to talk about community. So you can't have community on campus without services. An example of this is the downtown campus. UIT is actually going to be cutting the registrar's office from the downtown campus, while at the same time earmarking millions of dollars to build new buildings on the North Campus. We think it's important that the university invests in students who are currently here, and we were successful in fighting back against those cuts to at least keep a financial aid officer on the downtown campus. And when the election's over, we'll continue to fight for better services on all campuses as well. And finally, to take action, student poverty is an incredibly huge issue. Many students are on OSAP, myself included. My partner and I have over $90,000 in student debt. Many students are using the food bank and have to reduce course loads because they're working 2 or 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. So we want to increase the emergency bursaries that we've started this year, and also work with students across the province to make education a right for all students, so no one has to be shackled with the debt size of a small mortgage when they graduate. So when they do graduate, they can make that investment in their community by starting a family, buying their first home, and contributing to the local economy to make them productive members of our society. Now, part 3, my values. How will you as president foster a safe and cohesive university and college campus for all students on campus, including those from traditionally disadvantaged or discriminated groups, for example, race, religion, LGBTQ, disability, poverty, and others? Well, one of the things I'm actually really proud of our record this year is our VP Equity, Rada, worked with community partners and the institutions to create what was called Students for Consent. And we had roundtables discussions about sexual violence on campus. We also organized the Trans Day of Remembrance on campus by working with PFLAG, outreach services, and again, our campus partners and student groups. The one thing I'm proud of in our platform this year is we're looking to create equity collectives. And basically, we're looking to what other student unions do to ensure that there's an equal voice for racialized students and those from equity-seeking groups. So, for example, something that exists in this regard already is our Pride Committee. So students from the LGBTQ community get together on the Pride Committee. They organize events and support each other on campus to ensure that they're working against dismantling, any kind of homophobia or transphobia on campus, and working to make sure people feel included and welcome on their campus and safe. So we want to work with students to create these equity collectives to allow them to have a platform to support each other, and we support that autonomy by giving them some funding and also making sure they have a voice on campus. Number two, how do you plan to make student government decisions accessible and transparent to all students, commuter or otherwise? I do want to take note, I prefer to always call it a student union. I think the best parallel that student associations are basically to workers' unions. We're the advocate for students in the community and on campus. So when the government tries to increase our tuition fees, or in the campus institutions try to cut our services, we're the ones that kind of stand up and say, no, that's not in the interest of students, and we need to work together to fight for better service. So I think that's a better parallel. In terms of making our decisions accessible and transparent, this year was the first time ever that we actually kept regular minutes of executive committees that our executive team met on a regular basis. We created committee structures in the SA so that we had collaborative decision making. We invited board members to sit on those committees. And we also had the highest turnout at our AGM in the SA's history with the most student motions put forward. There's some work to be done though, I think, and I think when you talk to students in the hallways, most still are not really quite aware what the SA does. So that means better communication strategy, publishing our expenses online, giving regular updates, and also maybe streaming our board meetings online so students who are on commuter campuses can actually see what's going on in the SA, and so they can be involved as well. But that also means face-to-face organizing. It means going out and talking to students, collaborating with student clubs, and this year also I'm proud of the fact that we were able to work with, for instance, the Asian Chinese Student Association on a Lunar New Year event, the Muslim Student Association on a Ramadan dinner. We were able to work with the Hindu Student Association on a Diwali event. So it's also about diversifying our programming so that we reach out to constituencies that traditionally have been ignored by the Student Association to build that capacity among students so they know what the essay is about and they know they can get involved as well. And number four, me and the community. What are your goals for building community partnerships, adapting to change, resolving conflict, and incorporating the opinion of various stakeholders in decisions that you make as president? Our voice is always louder when we have other people joining with us. So one of the things we tried to do this year was actually build coalitions with the Faculty Association at UOIT, and we were successful in getting the UOIT Board of Governors to repeal policies that restricted access to their meetings. And by working with our campus partners, we can achieve great things. Again, that's what we did with the Students for Consent. That's what we've done with the Islamophobia Conference for those of us on the slate running for re-election. We've gone out, worked with community partners, even with International Women's Day as part of Social Justice Week. Those of us seeking re-election have worked with the Durham Region Women's Committee. We've worked with the YWCA, Denise House, different service providers in town that service these marginalized populations to come together to work for change. And I think that's one of the things I take great pride in this past year as president, is having been able to work with so many diverse stakeholders to come together to create new programming and to create a new voice for students in the community that didn't exist before. Okay, so the last question here, it says, as president, how would you become a face of the university and the college? How do you intend on representing the school to the local and broader community? Well, I think number one, the role of a student association is to represent students. Sometimes we can work together with the institutions when our interests align. Other times, it's our job to hold the institutions accountable. So for instance, on the UPass increase, we worked really closely with UIT and Durham College to present a really strong case to Durham Regional Council as to why they shouldn't increase the UPass. But there's also other times where we don't need to work with the institutions because their interests don't align. And that's, again, another example is when they tried to shut down, or they are trying to shut down the registrar's office at the downtown campus. You can count on Students Unite to be a strong advocate, to have a backbone, to advocate for interests of students in the community and on campus. And I think that's really what the role of our student union is. So that means, again, investing in advocacy, investing in diverse programming, but also working with local labor unions, different civil society groups, different campus clubs on campus. That's really the record that I'm proud of in this past year. We want to continue that work going forward. I think that's it.